Yeah, cricket, love the cricket. That's where we begin today's edition of the SportsMax Zone. West Indies completed a series sweep against South Africa by winning the rain-affected third and final T20 International at the Brian Lara Cricket Academy in Trinidad and Tobago on Tuesday. The match was reduced to 13 overs per side, with South Africa posting 108 for 4 after being put in by the home team. Tristan Stubbs again top scored for the South Africans, this time with 40, and was supported by 27 from Brian Brickleton. Player of the match, Romario Shepherd, took 2 for 14 to end the series atop the wickets column with 6. Shai Hope then led the chase with 42 to top the runs with 134, second most runs in the series. He took the player of the series honour. Nicholas Pooran added 35 as the Windies reached 116 for 2 in 9.2 overs to win by 8 wickets. Now, Roston Chase captained the Caribbean side last night, but let's hear from regular skipper Rovman Powell. All right, so let's move on from that and get involved. Nikhil Uttam-Chandani, who was on commentary in last night's encounter. Nikhil, welcome to the SportsMax Zone once again. It's great to have you. How are you doing today?
Always great, Ricardo. Always great to be back on the home of champions and to be alongside you as well. I'm doing very well.
And talking about the champion side in the West Indies, another impressive performance. Assess the overall effort coming from the Caribbean side without the regular captain Rovman Powell and Roston Chase taking over the leadership role.
Yeah, I think clinical performance, Ricardo. Obviously, I thought the toss had a lot to do with the result. You have to feel for South Africa, where they batted 4.5 overs. They started tentatively because we had an hour of rainfall before. So when you lose the toss and you're sent in to bat there's always going to be moisture. You could understand why they were a bit on the tentative side, trying to get a start, trying to sort of get those openers in because hoping that, it would get easier. And then you had a large downpour of rain. And of course, the surface was exposed. And when you have that reduction in overs and the Duckworth-Lewis-Stern method only giving them 8 additional runs at the end, I thought they were always going to be behind the 8 ball to defend whatever total they got to. But yeah, I think still credit to them the way Tristan Stubbs came out. And I think also credit to the West Indies because they could have easily gotten away from them with the likes of a Markram and the Stubbs there at the crease, where in the past we've seen them sort of falter under the pressure. But I thought the way they held their nerve, Shepherd, Shamar Joseph specifically, I thought it was great to see. And I think in the end, a pretty comprehensive win and a good batting performance, which has always pretty much been the standard when we've played this team in bilateral series of late.
Yeah, interesting point I think you made about the toss being critical in yesterday's game and how South Africa approached the first few overs in their innings before rain interrupted play again. But I also want to make the point quickly and just get your comment that it's been a struggle for the South Africans, and it's not just this series, but you look back at the World Cup as well, where they have lost a lot of wickets early. And I suspect that is something they were trying to avoid, although I take your point that had the situation been different, had the game been reduced to 13 overs per side from the get-go, then the approach might have been different.
Yeah, I think also, Ricardo, the surface is a big factor as well, because if you think back to the second T20 International, they got to 75 in the power play. And on a good surface, you saw what Reza Hendricks and co are capable of doing. But I think those sort of conditions are quite foreign to them. Even if you think about the same World Cup you're speaking of, when they played in New York and St. Vincent, pitches were really tough. So that, for me, explains their collapses. I think it's still something that they must address. But I don't think they'll be too concerned when you think about the surface. There was a lot of moisture in it. And even when they came back out to bat, the ball really gripped in the surface. You saw Aki Hossain getting a lot of spin, Roston Chase as well, Moti. And that was because it was exposed to some sprinkle, as well as being under the covers for about 40 minutes. So, again, really tough circumstances for them to have to try and set a total in just 9 overs when they came back out to bat. But yes, the collapses have been a trend which you obviously don't want to have. But they're missing Miller, they're missing Klaassen. So I think there is a lot in that middle order that they would obviously have, when a World Cup comes around. And still, it was a good chance for them to survey a few other options. Rickerton in this series, they want to bat Reza Hendricks at the top of the order. And I mean, Captain Markram and Stubbs. I think Stubbs in that number 4 position is a new experiment for them, but he continues to show he can absorb pressure. but also go up a gear and be really aggressive like he was yesterday.
Yeah, no surprise to see the likes of Shai Hope and Nicholas Pooran getting runs because they've been relatively consistent for the West Indies. But it was great to see Shimron Hetmyer get his opportunity and take his opportunity and finish strongly for the West Indies.
Ricardo, was it you a couple of days ago who asked me about Hetmyer opening the batting?
No, it wasn't.
Oh, I thought it was Lance or you, but I remember I think we spoke about it on the show. It
must have been Lance.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think I shot it down then. But watching Shimron Hetmyer yesterday, Ricardo, I think, wow. I mean, 9 from 10, and I was kind of worried about the rhythm, etc. But the way he sort of went after this boundary, everything just came off the middle of the bat. The timing was immaculate. He had a punch through the offside that I thought was amazing. Obviously, this was the pull, which he hit for 6. And after that, it looked like the Shimron Hetmyer that the 23-year-old that scored 100 at Kensington Oval against England, or who had the 5-1 international hundreds at a very young age, he just looked to be back. And I mean, for someone who hasn't played a lot of cricket this year and has sort of been on the bench and the sidelines for the West Indies, for him to come back in and bat with this type of rhythm, I thought it was amazing to see. And I would be lying if I'm saying the thought of Shimron Hetmyer batting at some position in this West Indies batting lineup is not crossing my mind. I think he is such a good player. He addresses some of the difficulties that they have against spin in the middle overs. And obviously, it's a very difficult proposition when you think about how well that batting lineup and the likes of Rutherford and what Rovman Powell and Russell give you. It's a difficult proposition to find a way to get him in. But I think, you know, if he's at his best and showing the versatility where he can finish at the IPL or even bat up the order for the West Indies, maybe it's worth trying to find a way to get him into that batting lineup, whether it's at the top of the order or at a number 4 position. I don't know, but I think having a left-hander there who can bat and play spin well, it might be integral. So let's see how they progress with this project going forward in the next few bilateral series, providing he's available.
Yeah, interesting because, you know, Alec Athanaze has performed brilliantly at the top of the order in this series. 2 very good knocks, and you have Brandon King still to return to the setup. And Shai Hope has been very good as well. Of course, he is a versatile player, so Shai Hope could bat at 3 or 4. But so could Hetmyer coming in at 4 last night and delivering quite well. So a lot for Captain Darren Sammy, or Coach Darren Sammy, and Captain Rovman Powell to think about going forward.
Yeah, I mean, you could even throw Roston Chase, your favorite player, in there as well, who I think is critical because of the balance he provides with ball in hand. So Kyle Mayers wasn't selected in this series. Suppose he's to have a big CPL and sort of bang down the door again for that opening spot. But one thing we know is that they like the left-right combination. So maybe it's Athanaze who, you know, has 18 months now to prove himself if they back him in T20 international cricket. Or it could be a Hetmyer. I mean, you don't know. We're so far away from that T20 World Cup that you don't know the possibilities and the opportunities ahead. But all I'll say is it was great to see Shimron Hetmyer back. And it not only was, you know, that finishing role that we're used to seeing him play for Rajasthan, he was able to get in and then show us glimpses of that timing and the old Shimron Hetmyer in West Indies colours that we saw when he scored the 2-1 international hundreds in India, or the one that he spoke about at Kensington Oval. It was just great to see, man, and I hope he can continue building as we go into the Caribbean Premier League.
Yeah, it really feels good, Nikhil, to know that, you know, we have a pool of firing batters that we can choose from. And I'll say it's one of the times where we have that problem and it feels so good. Now, in the bowling department, we also have that because Alzari Joseph didn't play, Andre Russell didn't play, and the big one, Jason Holder, he also didn't play, which gave the opportunity to Matthew Ford, Shamar Joseph, Romario Shepherd to, of course, fire with the ball. So I think sitting down and just reflecting on what happened as we get ready for the World Cup, and then you said it, and Rovman Powell said it too, we still have time and there are opportunities for other players to break through into the team. But it's a good feeling where you can sit and say there's so many options to choose from with bat and ball. And I felt like for quite some time we didn't have those options, but now it's a good feeling.
Yeah, Murray, I think, look, we've always had, I think, the bowling options, but what we don't have is execution at the back end of the innings. And I've been watching that closely, and I don't think this series necessarily is the best metric. I know Shepherd, for example, has been really impressive. And again, I think you look at the way he bowled yesterday to someone like Stubbs, who Stubbs made 40 off 15 balls. He faced 6 balls of Shepherd and scored only 10. the way Shepherd bowled with his pace off, going across him, and just the change-ups, but going back to that length which he gets sort of the ball to skid on from, he looked really good. And I think Romario Shepherd bowling like that, with his batting package, it makes the West Indies a lot stronger in terms of their balance. But I, again, would want to see if this can be consistent when he's under a bit more pressure, because we saw, at the World Cup, what happened when he went at over 15 runs and over. I hope that this is now the best Shepherd, because when he's firing like this, you see that length there, he is so difficult to score against. So I'm keeping a close eye on him at the CPL coming up now. Obviously, the bilateral series going forward, because I think he is very important to the West Indies and that overall T20 International 11. Another person I thought was really impressive was Shamar Joseph. You look at the two series, the one in Jamaica where Joseph bowled for the West Indies, and this one, both against South Africa, he's gone at 8.5 runs and over at the back end. I thought the execution of the wide Yorker, which we haven't really had anyone bowl consistently since Dwayne Bravo, it was really refreshing to see him deliver yesterday at high pace. He's got the slower bouncer as well. So I'm really excited by that. I mean, we have to remember that he's only played under 10 T20, professional T20s in his career. So let's see if he has a bigger responsibility at this CPL. And again, I'll say pressure, because it was a weakened South Africa batting lineup, and, he will face a few more tougher situations. But in terms of those two, really impressed. A bit worried still about Obed McCoy. I still feel he is the key to the back-end bowling with the left-arm variation, with the back of the hand store ball. And I'm really hoping he can have a big Republic Bank CPL now, unlike the one he did last year where he struggled. Because to me, I think at 27 years old, Obed McCoy is the key to the West Indies getting back as one of the best teams in the world in containing teams at the back end of the innings. I hope he can come good.
Yeah, and you mentioned this a couple of times, the importance of these players really making a statement at this year's CPL, because despite it being a franchise tournament, a lot of selectors and coaches really look on very keenly at these performances. And it's where we get to see, I remember when Hayden Walsh Jr. really lit up the CPL. I think he was playing for the Barbados Royals that time. And he, as you said, knocked on the door and ensured that he got into the team. And then, of course, his performances declined and all of that. But I know all selectors will be looking on very, very keenly. Now that the T20 series is in the bag and, we're happy about that, what are some areas, though, we still need to tighten up on, Nikhil?
I think probably still rotation of strike throughout the innings. I thought in the middle overs we were very good in this series where, they went at over 9.5 runs per over. But again, I'll say the context of that is there's no wrist spinner where the West Indies have struggled against playing for the South Africa team. We saw what Shamsi and Maharaj did to the West Indies in Antigua at the World Cup. So I still think, and obviously you can only play what's in front of you, but I'm looking to see in the series going forward, even in the CPL, if from a system perspective, we can have that greater rotation of strike and just scoring off more deliveries. And again, I still think the death bowling and the execution at the back end, there are many areas where we can improve. Yesterday, you saw Obed McCoy going for 21 in that one over. When the pressure is on and you have a set bat at the crease, the best in the world, the Boomer's, the Rashid Khans, the Jofra Archers at the last World Cup, they are able to sort of pull things back, get a wicket, and contain teams at the back end. So looking at those two areas specifically, because I think that has been the West Indies' Achilles heel. But definitely I saw strides in the right direction when you think about Shepherd as his execution at the back end. And again, Shamar Joseph, for me, the wide Yorker and the slower bounce, I think, makes him a really effective package.
Yeah, hold it right there, Nikhil. We're going to go to a break, but when we return, we're going to be talking the Women's Caribbean Premier League. The men's CPL starts tomorrow. The final for the women will be tomorrow as well. And yeah, we had a pretty exciting match last night with the Trinbago Knight Riders booking their place with a win over the Royals, who they will face again on Thursday. Let's take a break. We'll be back with more after this.